Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing some Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical analysis because in the last couple of days, really the last 5 days, Bitcoin has been doing nothing but trading sideways. As we can see here on the chart, the last 5 days have been completely sideways on Bitcoin, and based on some other things I'm going to be showing you in today's video, I am really starting to get concerned with the Bitcoin price action in the short term, and the short term means the next 2 weeks, because I'm starting to believe that Bitcoin's about to break support at an important price level of around $6,500 and see a retracement down to around 6.2, 6.3, or even as far down as $6,000. I'm going to be explaining why I believe that's going to be happening in today's video, or at least I'm going to lay out the case for what would happen if that happens in today's video. So if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and smashing the notification bell. Guys, we do cryptocurrency videos every single day, and I wouldn't want you to miss any of them. But let's get right into it. Bitcoin is currently trading at around $6,550 to $6,600, depending on the exchange. Of course, the chart we're looking at is a bit different than the composite here on CoinMarketCap, but that's okay. The last 24 hours, Bitcoin has had about $4 billion in volume. That's down, but it's not as low as it has been recently. That's not great, but it is a little bit better than it had been recently. We'd seen that up around $5 billion just a couple of days ago. Total market volume is hovering around $12 billion. That's still a little bit low. Bitcoin, like I said, has basically just been trading sideways. In the last 24 hours, it's essentially not moved at all. And the rest of the cryptocurrency market has been moving up. Some of it's been moving down. We see some gainers. We see some losers here. We see some big gainers. We see some big losers. This is really a day of low correlation. We don't see the entire market moving in one direction. The entire market has been doing basically its own thing. The altcoins have kind of been untethered from Bitcoin for the last couple of days because Bitcoin just hasn't been moving, so they started to do their own thing. Bitcoin's market capitalization is, of course, still above the $100 billion market capitalization point. That's an important level for Bitcoin. That correlates to about $5,750 on Bitcoin, and that was a recent low that we'll be looking at on the chart. And that recent low would correlate, if we come in here to the hour chart, that would correlate to the double bottom down here that we saw. And that's going to be an important factor in just a second when I start talking about a pattern that I think is going to play out. So we're here on the hour chart, and we talked about in a recent video, which you can watch up here, about this ascending wedge pattern. And this ascending wedge pattern, I expected we would break bearish out of it because typically an ascending wedge pattern, you do see a bearish breakout of, and that's exactly what we saw. Just a couple of days ago, Bitcoin broke bearish out of this, and currently it's in the process of forming and establishing a descending triangle pattern. Now, also, guys, if you aren't familiar with triangle patterns, aren't familiar with wedge patterns or anything, I have a trading strategies video where you guys can go and learn about how these patterns play out, what they mean, and how you can trade them. That video will also be linked in the top right if you're interested in learning more about that, because I know a large portion of my audience are new to cryptocurrency and technical analysis. But what we've been seeing here in the last couple of days is what's known as a descending triangle pattern. That happens when you have a flat bottom of support down here. This is almost at exactly the level of $6,450, and then you see a downtrend of resistance, and that's what we're seeing form up here. You could even draw this a little bit steeper like that, or a little bit more shallow rather like that. And essentially what this typically means is there's actually this is kind of an interesting place to see a descending triangle pattern, because what this normally means, a lot of times a descending triangle pattern or an ascending triangle pattern, pretty much anything with the word triangle in it, is typically a continuation pattern. Wedges are reversal patterns, triangles are continuation patterns. That's generally how that works. But at the same time, a descending triangle pattern is also typically bearish. So there is a bit of a it's interesting to see a descending triangle pattern at the top of a little run like this. That's something interesting to keep an eye out for. That's kind of splitting what this actually means, so we're going to disregard that a little bit for right now, but this is a formation that you want to watch out for, because a lot of times you can see a very powerful breakout of these triangle patterns depending on which way it goes. I think this is probably going to break bearish below $6,400, but we'll be talking about that in just a second. Another pattern that I want to point out is a head and shoulders pattern. Now, since a lot of you guys are also new to cryptocurrency, I'm going to give you a second to see if you can see it. Okay, now I'm going to draw it. It is right here. This is a head and shoulders pattern that we're currently in the process of forming. Let's make that a little bit cleaner. That would be the shoulder, that would be the head, and this would be the shoulder with the neckline right here at the base of this descending triangle pattern, that being the neckline right there. That is a textbook head and shoulders pattern if I ever saw one. And what we would like to see happen, or what we wouldn't exactly like to see this happen, but what I'm expecting to happen is Bitcoin is probably going to be breaking bearish out of this neckline, because a head and shoulders pattern, guys, I haven't made a trading strategies video on head and shoulders patterns, but I will in the future. Typically what you see with the head and shoulders pattern is it's a reversal pattern. Now, this isn't the only head and shoulders pattern we're discussing in today's video. This is an interesting, we'll talk about that in a second. But typically a head and shoulders pattern is a reversal pattern of the trend that led into it. And as we can see, a bull trend, an uptrend led into this head and shoulders pattern. So this would typically mean that you're going to see a bearish breakout below this actual neckline. And that's kind of what I'm starting to expect is going to happen. I think we're going to pull back here, and we're probably going to end up breaking $6,450 as a level of support. Now, we also have some trading back here around $6,300 to $6,400. That's going to garner some support around $6,300. But I think if we do that, what we're eventually going to see is that Bitcoin is going to bottom out somewhere around $6,200, which correlates with price action back over here. And that would be a very interesting development. And the reason that would be a very interesting development is if we come out here to the 4-hour chart, I could show you why. What I see in the 4-hour chart right now is I see an inverse head and shoulders pattern developing. We see the shoulder right here, we see the head right here, and then if we were to pull back to around $6,200, we would see almost a perfect another shoulder, and that would be an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which is like the normal head and shoulders pattern, a reversal pattern. And that would indicate to me that we would have a very, very strong breakout of the downtrend that we've been in for about 2 months now. We haven't really seen a very strong, deliberate breakout of this in the last couple of days because we saw a couple of good run-ups. We caught some of those on camera. We caught one of them on camera up here. You can watch that in the top right. That was a funny video. I died laughing after that video got recorded. But we haven't really seen a very strong breakout like I was hoping for. We ran up here for a couple of days, and Bitcoin's just been trading sideways for 5 days. And a lot of times, guys, when Bitcoin has been trading sideways in the last little while, that's normally not a good sign. Let me show you a couple of examples of that. If we come in here to the hour chart, the last 2 times that I can think of when Bitcoin was trading sideways for a prolonged period of time, it typically wasn't a good sign. Bitcoin was doing this when it was getting resistance around $6,800 up here. We traded sideways and then it fell off a cliff. It essentially did. That's basically what happened. A similar thing happened up here in late May and early June when Bitcoin was in a rising trend line, or a rising trading channel, excuse me. And then it started trading sideways. It got a flat top of resistance up here, and then it fell off a cliff. Bitcoin trading sideways is typically, you would think that would be a neutral pattern and that could mean that Bitcoin goes bullish or bearish, but lately, since we've been in a prolonged downtrend, that's meant that we are probably not going to be going up in the next little while. Something else I want to point out is this little level I have right here, this horizontal line right here. This correlates to previous resistance over here. As we can see, we have some resistance at $6,800 right over here, where we had several tops up here that we couldn't get above. And now we're also seeing that happen right here, where we had a candle jump all the way up to almost exactly $6,800, about $20 below it. And this is going to be an important level because what this would also represent is this would also represent the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders pattern that we were talking about. So what I'm expecting to happen, let me go ahead and put my cards on the table and tell you what my gut is telling me is going to happen to Bitcoin in the next week or so. I'm not... And this is weird. My gut, my instinct, and my actual intuition are telling me 2 different things. I know that sounds weird, but let me just go ahead and humor me for a second. What I think is probably going to happen here is that Bitcoin's going to have a retracement down to around $6,200, establish another shoulder for this head and shoulders pattern, and then we're going to see an actual proper breakout and run up here to $8,000. Not so cleanly as that, of course, but that's what I think is going to happen. We're going to see it break down, hit around $6,200, maybe even as low as $6,000, and then have a run up to $8,000. Now, this isn't me turning bearish. I still think we're very bullish for the next month or so, but the recent price action over the last week has led me to believe that we're probably about to see a retracement of some kind. I'm really not liking the way the market is looking. Another thing that I want to point out is that Bitcoin, as it was running up here and it's been trading sideways, it's been just straddling this 20-day moving average, or this 20-day exponential moving average. We can see this right here. Bitcoin has just been hovering on top of this 20-day exponential moving average with support around $6,500. It's been sitting on this moving average for a very long time. And you typically don't see that happen. That is something that is kind of rare in the market, for a market to just straddle a 20-day exponential moving average like that. Typically what happens in a market, and I'll show you an example of this, is that when Bitcoin, and we're talking about Bitcoin here, so typically when Bitcoin gets above the 20-day exponential moving average, it'll hit support on it once, and then it'll go on its run. It doesn't just sit there on it for like a week. But that's exactly what we were seeing now. But let me show you an example of what normally happens. What happened back here in September and October for Bitcoin, I remember this. This was a very fun market. This is my first bear market, actually. But Bitcoin got up here. It got support on the 20-day exponential moving average, and we also got a little bit of support here on the 20-day simple moving average, the 21-day simple moving average here. You see a little bit right there on that white line. But what you normally see is you see a bounce off of it. You see a pretty strong bounce off of it, and then you see a run. Now, one thing that could be leading to us not getting a strong bounce off of that and us trading just sitting on it for the last 5 days, it could be something to do with the fact that the overall tone of the market is bearish, and that Bitcoin is still in a long-term bear market. And this was a long-term bull market. That could have something to do with it. But this is just typically not how you see the 20-day moving average used by the market. As you can see here, we got one bounce, we came up, got another bounce, and then went to 5,000. Right here, we got a bounce all the way up to $3,000. Back here, we got a proper bounce up to $2,400. Back here, we got a couple of bounces. Like, we traded a little bit on it for a couple days here. We got several bounces here. It's just a weird trend. It's something that we're going to keep an eye out for. But a lot of time, I don't like the way the market looks in the last couple of days, guys. I think I've done a decent job of explaining why that is, and I want you guys to do your own technical analysis on your own. So definitely go ahead, open up some charting software, go look around, use the things that I hope you've learned in this video and the others I put up on the channel to do your own technical analysis and come to your own opinions and your own conclusions on where you think the market is going, so that you guys can do your own informed trades. I don't want you guys having to run to YouTube every time you're curious about what's going on in the market. If I could I was talking in a Discord server a couple hours ago, if I could put myself out of business in that respect, I would. I'm just here to give you guys my opinion. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, definitely consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and smashing that notification bell. Like I said earlier, guys, we make cryptocurrency videos every single day, and I wouldn't want you to miss any of them. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at CryptoJebb. That's going to tell you down there in the comment section down below if you're curious about how to spell that, but it's just the same way that you spell the channel name. But like I said, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.